okay, honestly speaking, if you told me as a new nurse, like, you need to exercise, I would be like, you mad? Are you crazy? Because work in itself is a workout.
Yeah.
You know, work is the workout. Welcome to another episode of Roll Call, TTSH Nursing's very own podcast, brought to you by TTSH Nursing Organisation Development, or TTSH Nursing OD for short. I'm Kim.
And I'm Tiff, and we're your hosts for today's episode.
So in light of Mental Health Awareness Month this month, we wanted to discuss more about mental health, especially in the nursing profession. If you haven't heard about Mental Health Awareness Month, it's observed globally in the month of May, and this initiative hopes to raise awareness on the importance of prioritizing mental health, break the stigma against mental health issues, and encourage people to seek help when needed. So we want to zoom in on this because being in a profession like ours comes with a lot of responsibility, of course, and this responsibility can trigger a significant amount of stress, which places very heavy demands on our mental and emotional capacities. So it has been very well documented and researched that some of the common mental health conditions faced by healthcare workers include
Burnt out, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as panic attacks and generalized anxiety disorder.
So Tiff and I are going to share a bit more about our own personal journeys, especially at the start of nursing and the struggles that we faced, and we hope that you guys will be able to relate with our journeys and follow us along the process and up to where we are now, basically.
Yeah, we hope you find it helpful and that we understand that every one of us have our own journey, and we want to come to highlight, destigmatize the mental health struggles that we may face. So, for both of us, we started our nursing journey in 2020 at the peak of COVID during social isolation. So we were both university fresh grad, entering nursing and trying to transition into a full-time nurse at that point of time. And honestly, personally for me, I find it very isolating.
Yep.
I found that, the whole world has been halt to a stop, and here I am entering healthcare. There's no one that really understood what I'm going through. There's so many changes that coming on, everything at one go. Protocols are constantly changing. We don't understand COVID as a whole yet, and it was just so daunting to come into the workplace. And on top of that, I am trying to see how can I fit into this entire big picture. How can I function as a competent nurse? And it's so heavy. I constantly feel scared. I was so scared to make mistakes. I double, triple check myself. I constantly bring back work from home. When at home, when I'm cooking dinner, I'm like, did I give the medication correctly? Did my patient sleep? Did my patient eat? How much did my patient eat?
And I remember to chart the one time that my patient went to the toilet, stuff like that.
And it was a lot of ruminating, and it come to a point where I dread coming to work. It's so daunting to come to work and know that and think that you will not do a job well.
Similar, very, very similar. I think for me personally, I faced a lot of anxiety before coming to work. Not so much about me thinking did I check this thing correctly or stuff, because I am quite thorough. Not saying that you're not thorough. Okay. But I think for me personally, it was more of just the weight and the heaviness of having people's lives in my hands. That gave me a lot of anxiety and stress. And I think it was more of okay, after my shift ended, I would immediately, the first thought in my head is okay, I'm going to go home and sleep. Then the next day, I'm going to have to take care of this patient again. Oh my gosh, then what if something happens again? So I'll just keep thinking and have so much anxiety of the next shift that hasn't even happened yet. I'm not even there on that shift, but all these overthinking and all these kind of thoughts will really, really take control of my mind. And that was giving me a lot of stress. Tiff faced a huge brunt of all of my panic attacks. So at the start, right, especially, I don't know why, during before PM shift, because I would wake up maybe 7, 8 o'clock, and then you have those few hours before my shift, I would just kind of be sitting in my room and I'll just be like, man, and then I would really get a panic attack, to the point where I would have very, very negative and very, very dark thoughts on the way to work. And when I'm at work, my panic attacks will start. I'll go to the toilet, I have to excuse myself for a moment, go to the toilet and cry for a bit and everything, compose myself, rant to them over the phone, and then be like, okay, and then you have to do it. So that was more of what I had to experience.
The transition period was very tough, and I think that was one of the time where I really questioned my calling in nursing. Did I enter the right profession? Am I really cut out for this? It seems really hard at that point of time. Now we can talk about it, joke about it, laugh, haha. But it was, we could not have that hindsight at that point of time, and all you could think about or feel was the struggle you were going through.
You're right. And I think all this anxiety anxiety and stress, right? So it was a constant cycle where I was mentally and emotionally very stressed, and that would manifest physically. So I fell sick very, very often. Sally had to take quite a bit of MC, so sorry to my sister. But like honestly speaking, like it was this constant cycle. So I was mentally and emotionally very drained and very tired, which led me to become very physically stressed. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat properly, I wasn't having my meals, and I lost so much weight. I lost so much weight at the start, like I had to alter my pants don't know how many times because of the weight I was losing. And then from there, because I was so physically tired and drained and like, you know, like just so weak, right? It made me spiral even more mentally and emotionally. And it was just, I was just stuck in this constant cycle and constant loop, which was so draining.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that these are common struggles that many new nurses face, just that ours was largely exacerbated by the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, correct. But I do hear similar sentiments from my students, from newer nurses that are entering the ward. So this definitely is not a personal, like a one person kind of experience.
Yeah, and I think, so after that, obviously, now we have worked for about 4 years. So I think this was mostly during our first 2 years, I would say. Going into the third and fourth year as more senior staff, I think that came with a whole different set of new stressors.
Challenges.
Yeah, Tiff, would you like to share more? Share more about that, please.
Yeah, okay, so as we got more independent, I am now a fully independent staff nurse, I just start to get a sense of confidence on the work that I'm doing, and I'm being given more responsibility, being a nurse in charge in the ward, being a preceptor, and that when another set of challenges come in, when now I'm responsible for a whole new nurse being, and that was so scary because my preceptor at the point of time was student, so it wasn't a staff nurse preceptor. So I have this very young girl who is entering the workforce, looking up to me as like the guiding figure, and it puts so much pressure on myself. I start to ruminate and think about very very scary thoughts, like what if this girl quit nursing because of me? Oh my god, did I teach her the right thing? Am I doing more for her? Is she gonna become a good nurse because of this? Is she gonna like her future patients, is it gonna be because of me? So a lot of these ruminating, negative thoughts put more pressure on myself, and as I come to work, I'm facing my patient care, I'm facing my students, and I'm very conscious about how I may take it out on my students. Which unfortunately sometimes preceptors can struggle with when you're so stressed, and sometimes you unintentionally put your expectation and the pressure on your student as well. So that was my struggle when I got a bit more senior, taking up another student nurse under me.
So it's just very interesting how at different phases of our nursing journeys, definitely over the years we became a lot more stable. But I think that came with a whole new set of challenges. Like being a mom to our preceptees is such a huge responsibility. We're not moms ourselves yet, but you know, like having babies in our ward that we really had to take care of and mentor is a whole other level. It's really a whole other level.
And speaking on this, right, actually nursing culture has this very beautiful concept, I find, that we treat our nursing students as like our babies. So like I would call my preceptor my nursing mom, and then my preceptee as my nursing baby, and I always feel so responsible, and it's always this sense of care that the culture provides.
It's just how you navigate that, I guess, not put too much pressure on yourself, just to protect yourself and set healthy boundaries as well. You know?
For sure.
So I guess that's pretty much summarizes our journey during the past 4 years. So how we want to move on, of course, like you don't want to stay in that spot where you're stuck, right? So for us, I think personally and through what we've heard from our friends, our colleagues, and also some suggestions from what you guys have shared on the ground, we got some mental health tips on how to protect yourself and your sanity.
And care for yourself better.
Yes. So I think we'll start off by sharing more personal tips and like on your self-care, hobbies, and then we'll move to on a more ward level, like in terms of the environment and at work. Okay, so to start, the first thing that we put on this list is try to get as much sleep as possible and rest when necessary. Don't burn yourself out.
Physical well-being is very important. So get your sleep, get your food, get your water, get your rest.
The Maslow hierarchy of needs. So okay, honestly speaking, like I think for a lot of people they're like, sleep just comes naturally, you know, like I just go and off my lights and go to sleep. But I think in nursing, I realized how intentional I had to be with like small things like these. So like I'm a very, very light sleeper, and sleep really affects my health in general. So for me, right, I had to get earplugs. Had to, like, for Tiff, she has blackout curtains to help us sleep better, especially, you know, when you're post-night shift, you really want to protect that time of rest that you have, right? And for me, I also like had to start taking like some sleeping supplements just to relax my body, take some tea, some nice warm tea before works. Not before work, before sleep. Sleep in itself can be work. You need to put in the work to get your good sleep, you know? So for me, I realized just how intentional I had to be with getting rest.
And especially when you're navigating shift work, you know, having to adjust your body clock from night shift to morning shift to afternoon shift, like constantly, it's very important to be intentional with the way you block out your time, the way you plan out, and the way that you have to get the rest that you need so that your body can last a long time.
Yep. So I think another thing that has helped to protect and nurture our bodies is exercise. Okay, honestly speaking, if you told me as a new nurse, like, you need to exercise, I would be like, you mad? Are you crazy? Because work in itself is a workout.
Yeah.
You know, work is the workout. It was, for me personally, I started off at a geriatric ward, and so a lot of my patients were very dependent on us for their day-to-day activities. You know, a lot of them are very bed-bound. They can't really move around by themselves. So work was a workout, and I was a tiny, tiny woman. And so, like, you know, like carrying the patient, bringing them to, even just bringing them, transferring them to go to the toilet and all that. Whoa, like my back, you'll sweat and all that. It really was a workout in itself. So if someone told me like then, like, you have to exercise outside of work, I'll be like, no way. After work, I'm just gonna go home, put my legs up and sleep. Go for a massage maybe, but not workout, you know? But I think over time I realized that nursing, as a nurse, you're kind of like an athlete. You have to train and, like, you know, okay, I'm sure that all our physiotherapists will agree with this, but you know, you have to really train yourself and strengthen yourself in terms of like your mobility, functional exercises, because that's what you have to do at work.
Yes, yeah. And so I think exercises doesn't come naturally for all of us. Like, I personally hate running, but I do find that to keep myself physically active, I can try like dance, I can try different forms, like just jogging, all this kind of thing. And it does really help with your mood as well. Like, it's been proven so many times that it helps to boost your dopamine, your serotonin, and in the long run, besides of keeping yourself physically active and healthy, you're doing your mental well-being good also.
For me, how I started off, because like what I said, the inertia was very, very bad. So I just started off by going for walks. Just simple walks after work, maybe after dinner, just to, like, you know, like, just walk and digest my food better. You know, just go for walks. I'll go for walks, put on my favorite playlist, look at scenery. I love scenery and nature. So that really helped to give me time to practice mindfulness and also to reflect on like my day and all that. So walking was really good. After that, I realized that TTSH actually has our own gym.
Go sign up.
So now, after I have this routine where, like, after my morning shifts or maybe after my night shifts even, I will go to the gym because it's just so convenient and it's over here. So I've kind of incorporated that into my routine, and I like to do Pilates as well. So just find out what works for you and then just see how your body feels at that point in time. Also, don't force it, and then just at least get your body moving.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, that's the important thing. So on being intentional, so on top of that, you need to be intentional with your hobbies and social activities as well. Like, you know, I think a lot of us make work our identity. Like, I am just a nurse, but you are more than that. And to keep yourself healthy, you need to be surrounded by a tribe, by a community. Yeah, and even though we may feel like time is so limited at work, like, I remember that when I started working, it all just feel like work, sleep, and that is all my life was. But much later on, I find that it's so helpful to allocate time for my friends, for my family. It makes my life a lot more meaningful, and it's also an outlet for me to de-stress. To let people know what I'm feeling, and they can help validate, support me in ways that are good for me.
I think definitely at the start, when you're a new nurse and you're very focused on clinicals and getting the basics right, I think at that point in time, it's very difficult to be like, like, I'm also going to be intentional about my hobbies and stuff. It's very easy to feel like, okay, I just want to rest. Like, it's very normal, you know, I just want to rest and chill. But I think once you slowly start to realize that maybe you're stabilizing, then that's when you can slowly start to get back into the groove. For us personally, we had to give up, I think, quite a few of our commitments outside of work when we first started out. But I think once we started getting the hang of things, then that was when we slowly started to commit back, get those things then start doing the things that you love again.
Yep, correct. You need to feel yourself so that you can give.
Because nursing is such a giving profession. If you really don't feel yourself up, how are you gonna
Yeah,
how are you gonna take
you
care of your
cannot pour
patients?
from an empty cup. That's what they always say.
Yes, and someone actually shared their story with us and said that music, like her passion of music, actually helped her to stop ruminating about sad thoughts and helped her to keep a clear mind, especially at the start when she was struggling with work. You know, so stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yeah, so definitely you do you.
Yep.
And so on top of that, we are exploring as well reflective questions as well as journaling. I myself find it very helpful because I'm someone that tend to ruminate on my thoughts, and if I don't keep my thoughts in order, right, it's very easy for me to spiral and down the drain I go.
Real.
So here are some questions that I hope you can find helpful for yourself as well. So first of all, check your thoughts. What are some thoughts that you have had about yourself recently? Are they positive or negative? I think a lot of time we just generally have like a bad feeling, like I feel bad. But you cannot really name or pinpoint on exactly what feeling is it. It can be a range of sad, angry, yeah, being dissatisfied. So be able to sit down with your thoughts and then check your thoughts on the positive, negative scale and name it is very helpful for me. And then on top of that, need to check your expectation of yourself. So where you are right now,
Yeah.
what expectation of yourself do you have? Are they realistic? Why and why not? Yeah. So honestly, hindsight is always 10-10, right? So for me, right, at the point of time when I was feeling a bit lost, I would reach out to my colleagues and my preceptor. I confide in her regarding my expectation. I think at the point of time, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be able to function as my preceptor.
But you need to remember that you're SN when you first start. You're not SSN yet. Like it takes
Yes.
so much to get up there. So you need to be realistic with your expectations.
Correct. And she really helped me to give perspective, like when she was my age or when she was at that journey, at that point of her nursing journey, how was she like?
Yeah.
Then she'll give me points on where I can do better or where I'm doing well as well, and it really helped to keep my perspective in check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me also, when one of my first few preceptors, right, when I was a student especially, I remember the relationship was very like, okay, work only. But what really broke down the wall and helped us to really build like a very meaningful relationship, right, was when I asked her, after shift, can I speak with you for a while? And then we went to the storeroom and we dragged 2 chairs into the storeroom and I was like, I'm stressed, like I'm not coping well, like can you share with me, like how is it like for you, like what worked for you, how do you get over this struggle? And then that's where the relationship became a lot more personal and I found out, you know, I saw her not as my preceptor but like as another whole human, a nurse who probably went through the same feelings and the same journey as me. Yeah, that's when things changed, our dynamic changed a lot.
Correct. And it really is helpful to check your expectation.
Yeah.
So after you have go through this and then you find that your expectation is not realistic, then you need to ask yourself, who then do you need to be, and what can you do differently so that you can be a realistic expectation or realistic version of yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you find that your expectation is realistic, congratulations.
Good.
Then you can start thinking about the next step. Who do you want to be and
Yep.
what can you do to get there?
Yep.
Yeah. So once I have went through all of this step, I get see things a little bit differently, get a better perspective of where I am.
Yeah.
The feelings and the ruminations get a bit better. They
Yeah.
get a bit more quiet, and then since you have something to look forward to, it work get a bit better as well.
Yep. Not so daunting. Not
Yeah.
so daunting and scary. You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's on the personal front. Now we'll move on to at work. Tiff, take it away.
Okay, so at work, this is where we spend most of our time, right? And this is where a lot of changes and stress are coming from.
Yeah.
So what can you do to help yourself feel better about work? We find that what helps us is to draw healthy boundaries. This can mean a lot of things for different peoples.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
For me, it was not losing my sense of self and protecting my sense of self. So at the start, I think everyone identified me, and I think all my friends can vouch for this. I was Kim the nurse. I would put on a hashtag on all my Instagram posts about work, right, as hashtag Kim the nurse, and that became my full identity. You know, outside of work, people would be like, "Hey, can you help me see this wound? Like, what is it?" Or like, "Hey, I have this thing. Like, does it mean I have COVID?" You know, so being a nurse became my whole entire identity. That I completely lost all my other, like, I was no longer known as like, "Oh, Kim the musician" or Kim the blah. So I think you need to remember that you are still you first, and that helped me a lot. If being a nurse is your identity, salutes to you, man. But I think for myself personally, to really protect my sanity, I had to really draw that boundary, and I think I probably only learned this like 1 to 2 years in, and that's when my perspective really changed. Yeah.
Yeah, for me to draw healthy boundaries would be to not take things personally. Like I remember the very first time that I cried in the ward, it was when my patient's blood pressure dipped, and I was so new, I didn't know that a BP of like 80, 90 is sometimes can happen. It won't kill a person. I was so scared. You know,
Yeah.
when I press the machine, there's like 95 over 60.
The patient's blood pressure must be 120 over 80 only, and that's the good one. That's all.
Yeah, I was so scared. And then
Yeah.
the moment that the shift was over, I sat down. I just bawled in the nursing counter. I thought I killed the patient.
Girl.
But these are real, you know, like you really
Yeah.
put yourself in a position where you blame yourself for a lot of things. Yeah.
Yep.
So for me, the boundaries would be the emotional boundaries and to not taking personally that, you know, patients' conditions are not entirely on me.
Yep.
Yeah, and that I need to make it clear to myself that I don't need to bring everything from work home.
Yep.
Yeah, and that also comes in with dealing with emotions at work. Like one of the hardest thing for me is to deal with patients' death. Yeah, like personally, I feel a lot for the family. I feel a lot for the patients, and sometimes going through a death with a patient, I would be so upset. Like I would bring the suffering home with me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a lot of people has been telling me about it. I'm still working on it, but it's something that I think we all should be aware of, because I think as nurses we are very empathetic. We feel a lot of strong emotions. Yeah, and when you feel so much strong emotion in such a short time, it can get very overwhelming.
Yeah, and for me, in terms of not taking things personally, I think not so much on the patient forefront, but for me, it's more of my colleagues. I'm a huge people pleaser, and I think that comes with being an empath. So I'm very sensitive. I always want people to have like a good impression of me. I get very sad when like, oh, if my colleague speaks to me a certain way, like, oh my gosh, does this mean like she hates me and like we can't be friends anymore, you know? But a lot of times at work, people are in their work mode. Like Tiff and I are not like that at work all the time. Like, you know, when things like get serious, things get serious. So I think learning to separate that and not taking things personally in that sense really helped to protect me a lot and not go home and overthink all these kind of things. Because, you know, once you have those kind of feelings, right, then you have those thoughts like, oh, then tomorrow I need to work with this colleague. Then what if she still thinks of me that way? Then it adds to the cycle of you dreading to go to work. You know?
And on that also, I think it's helpful for you to start to view your colleagues as people instead of just nurses and colleagues. Yeah, I think humanizing your colleague is very important, and I was very fortunate that the first ward that I started in, my colleagues were also supportive, and they know that new nurses struggle a lot, so they were very kind to me. And I think it's something that I bring along with me now to the rest of my nursing journey for sure. Yeah, like that culture building is so important for you yourself and the people around you. Like it starts with very small thing, like they will buy me food when I don't have enough time to go break. They will offer me Milo when they know that I'm so stressed out and that I haven't gotten any food or drink yet for the whole day. Yeah, or they would like just wish me a happy birthday. They will bring back snacks from the overseas trip for me. Yeah, these are the things that really make work a lot more enjoyable, to have people that make you feel cared for.
Yep, agree. One of our final points for work is to plan regular leaves and breaks whenever possible. So I think the joy about being on shift work is that, you know, we don't have to take public holidays on the public holiday itself. We can take it off in lieu. So an interesting good tip that we learned is that sometimes some of our colleagues will keep it so that we can have more regular breaks in between. So maybe every few weeks you plan like a public holiday and like 2 days off. So you get 3 days off. Take a short trip to JB. Go get a massage. Go and get your sleep, you know, your 12 hours of quality sleep. Just small things like that. And for me personally, I've been in an LDR for majority of my nursing journey. So sometimes it does quite sad. I mean, I'm very thankful for Tiff because she's been here throughout.
I'm the substitute boyfriend.
Yes, yeah. So, but sometimes it does feel quite lonely. So for me, what I do is that I try to plan regular leaves. Like, you know, like every 3-4 months, I plan a trip. Even though it's just a 1-week trip, but it really gives you something to look forward to. And after your leave ends, the next one doesn't seem so far away. You know, so you just constantly give yourself things to look forward to, and you work hard in the meantime to save up money for your trip and all that. It really makes things, and time passes by pretty fast, honestly speaking. Yeah, so yeah, that's one pro tip.
Yeah, pro tip. I think as a new nurse, it doesn't cross my mind to start to look at my roster, but it's been very helpful to be intentional with how your roster can be. So as a new nurse, look at your roster, plan your breaks regularly as you've deemed fit, and do things that is life-giving to you.
Yeah. And on our final tip for work is to speak up and approach your seniors or your management if you feel comfortable with. Yes. For me personally, I've experienced this. I think just now we shared quite a bit about my anxiety and my panic attacks, especially during the first 2 years. At the start, I think it was a lot on myself. Like I was like, okay, everyone else seems to be coping fine. Why is it only me? So I took a lot of the responsibility on myself. And after that, of course, my support system outside of work was very, very strong as well. But you spend most of your time at work. So if there's no support system at work, you will just keep dreading work. And work will just it'll just come across and seem as this very nasty place to be in. So I was like, okay, you know what? I need to step out of my comfort zone and I need to approach someone at work. So I've been very, very blessed and very, very thankful to have many supportive seniors and sisters and brothers along my nursing journey. So I did speak up to quite a lot of them, and they provided me a lot of emotional support, really journeyed with me throughout the journey. But I think one thing that really changed my trajectory was when one of my sisters gave me very practical advice. So actually TTSH, we have this thing called 3S. Do you want to share more about it before I continue?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So if you're unfamiliar, 3S is the system where it's a staff support staff, and it started during SARS, after SARS, to provide emotional support to staff for personal or work-related issues via a triaging helpline.
Yeah.
So you actually can contact them via a phone call or can just email in to them. And the 3S helpline is managed by staff care under HR Wellbeing, and is supported with clinical inputs from different specialties such as psychiatry, psychology, care and counselling. And you can find the phone number as well as the email contact on our HR under Wellbeing Resources.
Yep, on intranet. So my this NO, she told me how, she listened to me, of course, and I also talked to my UNM at that point in time because it was really quite bad. And she told me, hey, actually we have this helpline that you can call, so why don't you give it a try? So I was a bit scared, to be very honest, because it's like I'm calling HR and telling them about my mental state. It's very, very stressful at that point in time. But I was like, you know what? I was so desperate. I was like, I need to do something about this. So I called the helpline. I spoke with this very, very nice lady from HR. From there, I shared a bit more about the struggles that I was going through. And she was like, hey, you know what? How about you come and meet me face to face? So I went to the office and I had a chat with her. Shared a lot more about my journey and my struggles in work and also outside of work. She was very nice and very patient about it. And from there, she gave me resources. So she gave me some pamphlets on cognitive behavior therapy, how understanding anxiety, what can you do? And these were all very practical steps for me to move forward. And I think I had to be empowered to take control of my emotions and my feelings at that point in time. And from there, I think, like what I mentioned earlier, it really changed the trajectory of my mental health in nursing, as a nurse. So from there also, after that, I went for therapy outside of work. Personally, I went to find, things changed way for the better. I think you could tell also, there was this particular point, I think when I was 2+ years in, and that was when things changed a lot. My mindset changed a lot.
Yep. And I think this is very important to highlight, that there is no fear, there shouldn't be any shame in seeking help if you feel like you need it. So resources aside, you can find confides in your support system, you can find confides in the resources that we provide, but always check yourself, know when you need help, and reach out for the help if you need.
So with that, we just wanted to share some words of encouragement that you guys sent in. The first one, most important one, you are not alone and you are not going through this alone.
Word.
No matter how much you think otherwise, you are so capable, and the world needs more people like you.
To you,
yes.
yes.
I think that this journey can really, you can end up in this very self-sabotaging cycle. So I think you need to realize that, there's so many people around you that are probably going through the same thing. You just need to somehow find that space to have conversations about it, and I hope that you really take control and step out of your comfort zone if you really, really need help, and really, really speak to someone. Just find someone that you're comfortable with at work, outside of work, and then just share with them about the struggles that you're facing.
Yep. And the next one is some words of wisdom. I think this needs to be framed. If it's out of your hands, it deserves freedom from your mind.
Real.
Yes.
And the last one, quite interesting. I'm not sure how scientifically accurate this is, but I get the sentiment. The flower does not compete with the flower next to it. It just blooms.
Yes. So if you're in a situation where, let's say, you feel like your current community is not supportive of you, if you feel that competition is getting to you, this is something that it's nice to keep in mind that, you know, everyone is entitled to have a space to shine, to grow. Yeah, and you shouldn't get a competition cloud or be an obstacle to your growth.
Everyone is on their own journey.
Yes.
Like, don't let comparison is the thief of joy. I remember that was the quote I was thinking. I was trying to think of that just now. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
Just do your own thing, man. You do you. You know?
Yep.
And that concludes this episode of Roll Call. Remember, you can also check out our podcast on Spotify at Nurses of TTSH.
Do give us a follow and hit the bell button to get notified when we post a new episode. And give this video some love and engage with us in the comments.
For more updates and opportunities to contribute to our future podcast episodes, please follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Nurses of TTSH. If you have any topic suggestions or anyone you would like us to feature in our upcoming episodes, feel free to drop us a DM as well. If you want to be sitting here hosting this episode with me and being part of this team, please drop us a DM as well.
And we'll catch you during your next roll call. Have a good shift, everyone.
Bye.